Good morning and welcome. I am Kate Anderson with the University of Wisconsin Stout, and on behalf of the Vocational Rehabilitation Technical Assistance Center on Program Evaluation and Quality Assurance, PEQA, it is my pleasure, it is our great pleasure to welcome you to the 13th Annual Summit Conference on Performance Management. This conference has a strong history of connecting vocational rehabilitation professionals, evaluators, researchers, policymakers, and administrators around a common interest in continuous improvement within and across our public VR programs. We are very grateful to the Rehabilitation Services Administration for the tremendous support they have provided through the PEQA grant, and specifically for the guidance and support provided by Douglas Shue, our project officer, and his supervisor, Mary Lovely. We are also appreciative for the countless hours of effort contributed by the Conference Planning Committee over the past year. The committee is comprised of summit navigators, PEQA staff, evaluators, PEQA participants, RSA staff, leaders at the Florida Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, and colleagues at the WinTech Technical Assistance Center. I would like to take a moment to specifically thank the staff at the Stout Vocational Rehabilitation Institute and Employment Resources Incorporated for their excellent work in making this event a reality for us today. As you know, we were originally planning to meet in person and hold this conference in Orlando, Florida in mid-September, but of course the pandemic occurred. Fortunately, everyone willingly and generously shifted gears into developing this into an online event being held this week. While we miss not being able to connect with you in person this year, we look forward to doing so again in the future. If we experience any technical difficulties today, our team will work quickly to resolve the issues and get us back on track. At this time, I would like to introduce my colleague, Mr. Kyle Walker, who serves as the Executive Director of the Stout Vocational Rehabilitation Institute, located at the University of Wisconsin Stout. Kyle has a strong background in the public VR program prior to coming to the university, and he would like to share a few comments with you now. Kyle?
Thank you, Kate. My name is Kyle Walker, and I work at the University of Wisconsin Stout's Vocational Rehabilitation Institute, like Kate said. And I was asked to give kind of a brief background on how this all started. In 2007, I was the Administrative Services Director for the Utah State Office of Rehabilitation in Salt Lake City, and hired a gentleman by the name of Michael Shoemaker to become our new Quality Assurance Program Evaluation Specialist. And when we hired Michael at the time, he was our only Program Evaluation and Quality Assurance person in the agency. And I asked him at that time to take some time and call a lot of the other state VR agencies and find out what they were doing within their programs, because at the time in Utah, our quality assurance basically consisted of a consumer satisfaction survey and mainly was focused on compliance with policy and regulations through case file reviews every year. And we were really interested in creating a more robust quality assurance program that looked at all aspects of what the agency was doing and really reviewed what the results of those were and tried to focus our efforts on continuous improvement. Michael came back to me several months later after having contacted quite a few states. And what he learned is that a lot of folks were in the same position he was. They'd moved up within the agency. They didn't have necessarily specialized training in program evaluation and quality assurance. And they were learning themselves and trying to develop the way that they were doing their work in their agency. And he at that time suggested that maybe we should get this group together and have a summit where this group could learn from each other, and we could bring in some academic specialists in the area of quality assurance. And so we approached our executive director at the time, Don Uchida, and asked Don if he'd be willing to sign off on bringing these states together in Salt Lake City. And we did that in 2008 was our first conference in September in Salt Lake. And we really thought this was a one-off type of event. We didn't anticipate that it would grow into something that now is, you're sitting in the 13th Summit Conference. There has been a conference every year. It has really become a grassroots-driven field initiative that the field has really owned since the beginning. We are very grateful to RSA for the support and their buy-in to this, and they're seeing the value of this field initiative. And we just really have been very grateful to see how this has grown. They're now at this conference, the last I heard, we're over 1,000 registrants for this conference. This has grown and evolved over the years into the Piqua Technical Assistance Center was founded in 2015 and really developed the first national certification for program evaluation and quality assurance. Another thing that came out of that initial summit conference was the development of the RPEN, or Rehabilitation Program Evaluation Network, within the National Rehabilitation Association. So what started as a very humble, let's get folks together and find out what we're doing and see if we can do it better, has really evolved over time. And now with the recent Quality Management Technical Assistance Center that is coming online, we're really excited to see where the next steps in that evolution of quality assurance goes. And we want to welcome you all and thank Kate for her leadership in the Piqua Technical Assistance Center. And so I'm going to turn the time back to Kate.
Great. Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it. We would like to thank the Florida Division of Vocational Rehabilitation team for hosting this event and working closely with us as we navigated the process together. The leadership provided by the Florida team, their commitment, diligence, and patience is greatly appreciated. The Florida team also worked closely with the Florida Able Trust to procure generous sponsorship to help support the conference this year, which is allowing us to make the content available to a much broader audience. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Allison Flanagan in providing welcoming remarks on behalf of the Florida Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. Allison has served as the director of Florida DVR since September 2017. Under her leadership, Director Flanagan works with staff, service providers, businesses, and other agencies to raise awareness and promote inclusion, full inclusion in the workplace. And just give us a moment as Jen is pulling up Allison's welcoming remarks.
Annual Summit on Performance Management. Hello, I'm Allison Flanagan, Director of the Florida Department of Education, Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 13th Annual Summit on Performance Management Excellence. What a year 2020 has been. This has been an extraordinary year with way too many unknowns to count, but it is also a year of accomplishments. The Americans with Disabilities Act is celebrating its 30th year. The National Disability Employment Month is celebrating its 75th year, and the Public VR program is celebrating its 100th year. And we have celebrated virtually all over the world during a pandemic. I know many of you are missing the face-to-face learning and networking that benefit each of us at an in-person conference. The Summit Conference Planning Team has included lots of opportunities to network through the virtual platform, and I encourage you to participate and meet colleagues from other states. I have been in the field of VR for over 25 years, and yes, I'm at the stage in my career that I just use the round numbers. And the friends I have met and learned from within the VR network has helped me tremendously during my career. I think everyone will agree that VR is a complicated program, but no better program out there has the mission like we do. What we do makes a real difference in the lives of our customers, but we can make the impact even better when we learn from each other, reach out and ask for help from other states, and work together for continuous improvement. This year's virtual conference includes many presentations that can help improve your internal controls, quality management, and process improvement. The agenda includes specific programs for innovative strategies and partner engagement. For the VR data folks, there is a track for data management, performance measures, and program evaluation. There's a topic for everyone, and I know there has been a lot of hard work to pull together this virtual event. For all the conference planning team, thank you. While 2020 has been challenging for many of us personally and professionally, it is a year of innovation and growth. If 2020 has taught us anything, it is patience, compassion, and a lot of flexibility. VR has learned how to turn our services into a virtual approach, an approach that will continue well beyond the pandemic, an approach that meets the demands of our customers and business partners, an approach that supports the unique skills and abilities of our customers, an approach that helps our employer community continue their work with a skilled workforce, an approach that brings equality to individuals with disabilities, regardless of their background. 2020 has certainly challenged the world, but it has also brought many of us together to make improvements and be a leader in disability employment. When you look back at the last 100 years of VR, there has been tremendous improvements. VR started with legislation to support the World War I veterans returning to work. The last 100 years has seen the disability movement push for equality and community involvement. We have evolved from a eugenics approach, where they were sterilizing individuals with disabilities, to a world of acceptance and inclusion. Think about the next 100 years of VR. What will our future look like for individuals with disabilities? Part of what the future holds is in your hands. It's your time to lead through innovation and inclusivity. It's your time to make an impact that will be celebrated 100 years from now. Make a difference. Be a champion. Never stop learning and evolving. I've always told my staff, if I ever stop learning in my career, it's time to go to the house and retire. But I'm not ready yet. Once again, welcome to the 13th Annual Summit on Performance Management Excellence, and learn lots from an outstanding agenda.
Wonderful. Thank you, Allison. And thanks again to our friends and colleagues in Florida for graciously hosting this year's summit event. I do want to take a moment to mention that live captioning is available throughout the session this morning. Simply click on the closed caption button at the bottom of your Zoom screen to turn on the closed captioning if you so desire. Additionally, live ASL interpretation is available throughout the session this morning as well. Our pre-recorded sessions also have closed captioning included in the sessions. At this time, I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speakers, Commissioner Mark Schultz and Mr. Chris Pope. Mark Schultz serves as the Commissioner of the Rehabilitation Services Administration at the U.S. Department of Education and has delegated the duties of Assistant Secretary for Special Education and Rehabilitative Services. In this capacity, Commissioner Schultz advises the Secretary on matters related to the education of children and youth with disabilities, as well as employment for youth and adults with disabilities. The mission of his office is to improve early childhood, educational, and employment outcomes, and to raise expectations for all people with disabilities, their families, their communities, and the nation. Mr. Christopher Pope serves as Chief of the Data Collection and Analysis Unit within RSA and works closely with Commissioner Schultz. The work that Chris and his team conduct is critical in overseeing program evaluation and quality assurance efforts in partnership with and across our state vocational rehabilitation programs. Our thanks to both presenters in sharing their time, perspective, and expertise with us today. At this time, Jen is going to start the pre-recorded keynote session from Commissioner Mark Schultz and Mr. Chris Pope.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Well, actually, I'm here every day, at home that is. since we begun teleworking last March. Much has changed since we were last together. I'd like to share a few of the changes that have occurred over the last year. Some that we hoped for and some that were unanticipated. Last year, I shared a story about my nomination announcement in the local newspaper. So for those of you that might not remember, when I was first nominated, I was looking for my announcement in the local paper. And I was searching through it. It wasn't on the front page, but I finally found the announcement in my picture, along with many other pictures and announcements. But it happened to be on the obituary page. So with such a beginning to this journey, I guess I should have expected that this was going to be a year of many surprises. So as with any job, the first few weeks and months can be pretty overwhelming, but I just want to express my appreciation for the great support that I had from the RSA staff. Without them, I don't think I could have gotten up to speed as quickly as was necessary. The onset of the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, has resulted in more rethinking and changes out of necessity. We've seen VR programs across the country respond with innovation and creative strategies to continue to provide services. Training continues through remote technology, just as we are here meeting today. The move to telework has created opportunities for individuals that might have struggled in a traditional office work environment. During the last year, we've continued our work to rethink VR performance and to respond to the issues brought on by the pandemic. Let me just touch on a few of the priorities and what's been accomplished by RSA. We established a performance data work group. That's RSA and VR agencies are trying to create a shared vision of VR program success and making sure that VR agencies will have the tools that will assist them with data analysis and program evaluation. In addition, one of our major priorities was increasing flexibility and reducing the burden on states in the provision of services. So we did a number of things. We issued an FAQ on prior approval. We issued a notice of interpretation on pre-employment transition services to increase flexibility as to the allowable expenditures that would count towards the 15% mandatory set-aside. We issued a Dear Director letter on cancellation fees. We provided joint guidance with the Department of Labor on negotiations and sanction guidance for WIOA core partners or core programs. We issued, in response to the pandemic, a number of frequently asked question documents. We tried to respond as quickly as possible when the pandemic came on in March. April and May, we issued 2 FAQs that focused on the allowable flexibilities related to fiscal management and administration of programs to help you provide continuity of operations. And just a few weeks ago, we issued an additional FAQ document to address additional questions around the provision of services and use of VR funds for specific activities. In the area of technical assistance, we acted pretty quickly in response to COVID to expand the technical assistance that was available through WinTech so that they could provide assistance to states on best practices and models for the delivery of remote services to individuals with disabilities. We issued an updated transition guide in partnership with OSEP. And in the area of pre-employment transition services and transition, OSEP, the Office of Special Education Programs, the director, Lori Vanderploeg, and myself issued a joint letter on the importance of collaboration between schools and VR agencies in the hopes that the letter could be used to open doors for VR agencies that were still having some difficulty getting into schools. In addition, we have just recently awarded 2 TA centers, one with a focus on quality management and the other with a focus on quality employment. The Technical Assistance Center on Quality Employment will focus on the successful use of evidence-based strategies and services that lead to better paying jobs through career pathways, apprenticeships, internships, and so forth. But in order to do so, this requires that leadership and decision makers have the knowledge, the data, and the understanding to make good choices about programmatic and fiscal decisions. So that's the purpose of the Quality Management Technical Assistance Center, to provide that support. These 2 TA centers will provide intensive technical assistance to support states so that the result is quality services and quality programs that lead to quality employment for individuals with disabilities. So in regards to the Randolph-Shepherd program, we provide some additional support to our programs. We've added 3 RSA staff and an additional attorney in the Office of General Counsel who focuses on the Randolph-Shepherd program. This will help us address the backlog on state rules and the request for arbitration. And I'm glad to say it actually worked because that backlog no longer exists and we are current on the requests. We did create an additional opportunity for addressing issues through conflict resolution. RSA staff helped to facilitate good faith efforts to settle in advance of the arbitration process to avoid the stress, time, and financial burden to help come to resolution, hopefully through that process earlier. In the area of monitoring, there was a 2-year backlog, and I'm glad to say that we are on track to get all those previous monitoring reports out. And we thought we were going to have those all out until COVID-19 hit. So we're just about there, but we've made significant progress in addressing that backlog. And that's important because if we're going to provide monitoring and recommendations to you as programs, we need to make sure that recommendation and the assistance is timely. So I'm glad to say that we're almost there with that. We also have a work group that's making recommendations for future monitoring and how we can make this a process that's meaningful for you and leads to quality improvement. We intend to have a stronger connection between our monitoring and technical assistance centers by focusing on the identification of strengths and areas needing improvement to establish quality and services and overall quality programs through the combined support of that monitoring and the technical assistance. And coming in as commissioner, one of my priorities was to raise the visibility of the VR program through the VR 100 anniversary celebrations. So while COVID-19 certainly changed how we thought we were going to do that, we've been able to do it through a couple of alternative means that I think have been pretty successful in elevating the program and keeping VR in discussions. The first thing we did was we established a logo to connect all of us to this celebration. And I'm very happy to see that. I've seen that on signature lines from many individuals and in materials that's been developed for state use. So I think that's been successful in identifying all of our programs in connection to VR. We also established a website for materials, events, and success stories. And the success stories are particularly critical to helping people understand what VR does, the services and supports that we provide, and also the outcomes, that we really make a significant difference in the lives of individuals with disabilities. Over the course of the last year, we also hosted monthly webinars on key themes such as transition, innovative solutions to ensure the continuity of services due to COVID, assistive technology, veteran services, independent living, and our partnerships with Centers for Independent Living. In addition, I know that many states have or are hosting state celebrations. So I believe we've really done a great job in creating visibility of the VR program, but also elevating it, the importance and the significance of the work that we do. And that's what we've been doing over the last year, and most of it since COVID, but this year is coming to an end. So we need to look to the future to stay relevant in this changing environment. One of those issues in our immediate future is the need for additional guidance on competitive integrated employment. COVID unfortunately impacted the timeline for our progress, but I've continued to meet with and I hear from stakeholders on this issue. And I would like to say that there is some commonality in that we all value employment and we want to maximize the potential of individuals with disabilities. And we believe that informed choice of the individual is paramount. Where we don't necessarily agree is that certain choices have consequences, particularly whether VR funds follow along in support of an individual or not. We do continue to stress that VR programs need to make decisions on a case-by-case basis as to whether a site is competitive integrated employment, and that individuals that choose a goal other than competitive integrated employment need to be referred to the appropriate services and providers based on their decision. Informed choice is so critical to this process. I understand the need for clarity on these issues, and our hope is to do so in the very near future. So one of the other issues that I see coming forward in the future is that we will need to continue in our phase 2 of rethinking VR performance. There's much to consider, as we have documented in our report to Congress on the impact of WIOA. The trends we share in the report certainly will cause us to have to evolve again as a program. Chris is going to provide you with updates on these numbers in a few minutes, but I'll just share that the trends that we see and that we've shared with you in the past, the declining number of applicants and individuals eligible for the program, that trend has continued to decline, while the number of students with disabilities being served continues to increase. Some critical decisions will need to be made with the next reauthorization of the Rehab Act to determine how to respond to the changes in WIOA and their impact on VR programs. We're facing unprecedented challenges, and once again, we're responding with innovative strategies and creative service delivery and support models. This isn't new for VR. After all, if you recall, when this program was first established 100 years ago, it was dealing with the aftermath of another pandemic, the Spanish flu. And here we are, 100 years later, dealing with another pandemic. As a program, we survive and we keep improving. We need to adapt and make changes. But one thing that never changes is the basic purpose of our programs in VR, to help students, youth, and adults with disabilities achieve high quality employment outcomes that they choose, and which allow them to reach to the extent that they desire their highest career goals and their fullest potential. So with that, I'd like to take a few questions and respond to those. And I'd like to say it's no surprise that when we get individuals who are that have a focus on program evaluation and quality assurance, that you're going to be asking a lot of questions. And I really appreciate the number of questions that came in. That was very surprising. So what we did was we tried to take a representative number of those questions and be able to respond, hopefully, to the majority of the questions and the issues that were brought up as a result. So with that, I'm going to start with the first question. And the first question is, what is OSERS doing to make sure that services are maintained during the pandemic? And with the changes we've had due to COVID-19, do you think this will cause permanent changes in how service delivery is provided to our clients? Well, we at RSA did several things in support of the programs. We had state and program liaisons reach out to each grantee to first assess their situation. Were they continue to provide services? And if so, what model were they using? Was it being done in person, through remote services, or a hybrid version? And then we asked, how can we support you in that? In response, we then expanded, as I said earlier, the technical assistance under WinTAC to include the technical assistance on remote service delivery options and strategies for telework. In addition, we also suspended monitoring for the states that were scheduled. We knew that you were busy enough addressing those COVID-19 issues and making sure you could continue services. So we wanted to support you in that. And so we also, as I mentioned, we issued FAQs in April and May that focused on the allowable flexibilities related to fiscal management and administration of programs. And then just a few weeks ago, we had another FAQ that addressed additional questions. So all told, we had 361 questions that we responded to that were related to COVID-19. So our second question, will it result in some permanent changes? That's the second part of this question. I believe we are seeing opportunities to be innovative and creative in the use of our remote services and technologies that extend the services to individuals, to more individuals in a way that's more accessible. This is going to continue to be a viable option, I think, for the future, in addition to in-person services. In addition, COVID-19 also had an impact on businesses. So as they move to telework opportunities, I think many will find this as a longer-term way of doing business. And I think we're starting to see some of that. So we need to be prepared to take advantage of these opportunities with a skilled and trained workforce. We need to make sure we can support businesses in this transition so that we can make sure that these jobs are opportunities for individuals with disabilities and not creating technological or accessibility barriers for people, but rather creating a level playing field for individuals with disabilities. So now we'll move on to our next slide. Our next question is, WIOA supports services to eligible persons to advance in their careers. How can state agencies be encouraged to support career advancement for employed program participants? Well, with COVID-19, many states saw the benefit of retention services as they supported the move to telework, but services for advancement often receive lower priority due to limited program resources. Policies and practices that prioritize helping individuals that need a job rather than advancement also create less of an incentive to look at advancement. Nationally, 55% of the individuals closed with a successful employment outcome are closed in jobs that pay $12 an hour or less. So for many states and individuals, depending on family size, that's about 130 to 150% of the federal poverty rate. So if we're really talking about economic self-sufficiency or reducing or getting individuals off benefits, I don't think that does it. So there are some exciting things that are going on that really focus on that quality employment and what happens when we look to advance individuals. And so I know personally I was involved with the Career Pathway Advancement Project in Nebraska before I left. And I think they're experiencing some success in helping people and reaching back to individuals who were previously served in starting jobs where they perhaps were getting minimum wage, to ask them if they're wanting to advance with additional training and support for the VR program. And they've seen, I think, individuals experiencing tremendous success in moving through that career pathway and gaining jobs, gaining promotions that provide them with additional benefits, increased wages, and I think getting them on that path to really what is truly leading them to economic self-sufficiency. So there are models out there. I think the performance measures are also a barometer of quality employment. So we're exploring how we might do more to encourage states to support individuals, not just in that first job, but until they've been able to achieve or are well on their way to advancing in their careers. So hopefully we'll be sharing more about some opportunities to do that in the near future as well. So moving on to our next question. While data collection and program evaluation are critical to our success, they can come at a cost. Knowing that internal customer service can influence external customer service, what's being done or suggested at the federal level to support the efficacy and morale of rehabilitation staff across the country? Well, thanks for that question. That's not an easy one to address. And, Chris may talk about this a little more in terms of the changes that we made in the 9/11 reporting that sought to focus on collecting data that hopefully is necessary and meaningful. But in addition, we established a work group as part of the Rethink VR Performance Initiative that's reviewing performance measures and is going to make recommendations on how we can ensure that what you're reporting on truly demonstrates the value of the VR program and its services. And I believe if you can see how the data has value, it will be seen as less of a burden. So if you don't see how the data is being used, it's going to seem as an unnecessary burden. So if we're able to show you that direct connection to the data that you collect and how it's demonstrating the success and value of the VR program, I think that's going to go a long ways in having you see it as less of a burden. In terms of raising the visibility of the program via VR 100 celebrations and the successes of the individuals, I think doing that goes a long way to how others see us, but also more how we see ourselves. The VR 100 webinars and success stories received a lot of feedback about how proud counselors and VR staff were to be, how proud they were to be a part of such a great program. So VR 100 was important as we need to take time to celebrate the history of the program and how it's been at the heart of many of the systems changes with people with disabilities over the last 100 years, and how it still is at the heart of those changes today. So I think seeing that and knowing that there's a pride in that 100-year history individuals that came before us and the obligation and responsibilities we have today, I think it goes a long way in towards helping elevate the profession, but also how individuals feel about that profession. So our next question, if you had to choose one thing that VR agencies could improve upon, what would it be and why? Well, given that a lot of thought, I think keeping individuals engaged, to me, is one of the things that we need to focus on. Keeping individuals engaged helps them achieve successful employment. So if we look at the number of applicants coming into the program and determined eligible, that number is continuing to decline. And while I know that was certainly impacted by COVID, that trend was established earlier. We knew it was declining. That employment rate has also dropped off by about 3.5% over just the last 2 program years. So we need to do a better job of engaging individuals early in the process and throughout the VR process. And I think that came to light for me when I first started as a director with the VR program, and I went out to offices and I was talking to them about why some of the individuals we had, the number of people, the significant number of people that were dropping out of the VR process early on. And I had a VR counselor share with me, well, that's just part of it, right? We schedule individuals for a meeting every 2 weeks. And if they keep coming back every 2 weeks, then we really know they're serious about getting a job. So to me, that's not how we engage people. Right? Strategies like progressive employment and motivational interviewing can help. We need to do a better job of that. And so by engaging individuals and keeping them involved in the process, we're going to have better longer term outcomes. We're going to have individuals recognize the success that they can achieve through career pathways and through their work with VR. So going on to our next question. Where would you like to see the field of vocational where would you like to see the field of vocational rehabilitation go and grow the next 100 years? Well, I guess I would just add a couple of things to what I've said earlier about quality of employment and about engagement. But I think we need to continue to evolve to address the changes around us. So, given my background in assistive technology, obviously the technology advancements are going to create more opportunities for careers, but they're also potentially going to eliminate a few. So some things that come to mind that are going to have an impact are self-driving vehicles, AI systems, and just as we're seeing now, the move to virtual and remote services, I think, are really going to have a longer-term impact. So we need to be prepared that the types of jobs are going to change and how those services and how we provide services might change, so that we can help provide the training and support to individuals so that they're ready to take advantage of those opportunities. And again, making sure that while we're doing that, that our ultimate focus doesn't change. And that's that we help support individuals by helping them believe in themselves, giving them the confidence and the support so that they can be successful. And that's one thing that shouldn't change. And that should always be a priority. So if we go on to our last question, what is your advice, professional and personal, to someone who just became a director at age 30? So I would say first, congratulations. I think that's a tremendous accomplishment. So congrats to you. One thing that I tell people, particularly that are in these kinds of decision-making positions, these leadership positions, is those decisions can sometimes weigh very heavily. So this can be a lonely position. So I always recommend find a mentor, someone that can serve as a sounding board or a thought partner, so you don't feel alone, and so that you have someone you can bounce those decisions off of prior to putting them out. And I would say don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't think that's a sign of weakness. I think a good leader makes sure that they're not making an uninformed decision. You want the information. You want to hear from people. And I think the longer you do this, you know, you're going to ask questions, because the longer you do it, the more you realize how much you really don't know. And I'm still learning things every day. And so I think you need to ask those questions. It's real important. And the other thing I would say is know yourself. And when you're making those decisions, stay true to your values. That's a difficult thing to do when you have many people pulling on you in different directions. And just know that you're not going to be able to make everyone happy. So again, know yourself, know what you believe, and stay true to that. And then last, I would just say, stay connected to those you serve. You need to understand the impact and consequences of your decisions. So not just staying connected to individuals with disabilities, but also businesses. We have a dual customer focus. But importantly, stay connected to your staff as well. Find a way to know what's going on in those direct services, and if there are changes that need to be made, so that you know what impact any of your decisions will have and the consequences. So with that, I thank you for the opportunity again to be here today and to present to you and update you on what RSA has been doing, and also some of the challenges that we have for the future. So again, thank you. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thank you to the organizers of the Summit Conference for inviting us to present. We appreciate being here. It seems like just last week when we were in Portland eating lobster together, and here we are in our homes. Extend my appreciation to Mark for his leadership of RSA over the past 8 months as we've pivoted to working remotely and adjusted to operations in the pandemic. His support has truly been foundational to our success. Also, a cornerstone of Mark's leadership has been using data and evidence to make informed decisions about the programs we administer at RSA. And for that, we are also grateful. My RSA colleagues and I are excited for the Summit Conference. We'll be popping up during sessions to learn more about what's happening around the country with implementing quality assurance programs, strengthening internal controls, and building capacity to manage performance data. So if we go to the next slide, I'll share a little bit with you about the data unit, our small but mighty team of data analysts, IT specialists, and a statistician. This slide breaks out how the data unit covers all 78 VR agencies across our 56 states and territories. If you don't know your data unit representative, I would encourage you to reach out to them with questions or requests for technical assistance. We want to remain in contact with you and keep our strong relationships going. As always, you can feel free to email me or our general mailbox at rsadata@ed.gov as well. So we acknowledge that the transition to the WIOA performance accountability system has been and will continue to be a significant undertaking. And as we begin the 4th year of WIOA data collection and reporting, we remain here to partner with you. So if we take a look at the next slide, our biggest news is that we have a new website and a new management information system, the RSA MIS for short. At the end of June, RSA announced that we began a phased migration to our new operating system in a Drupal-based website. Our website remains our platform for sharing news and other information about the programs we administer. It still remains our repository of guidance and other resources for the public and for our grantees. The RSA MIS continues to serve as our portal for collecting data and other information from a whole slew of different RSA grantees administering the programs at the state and local level. In a phased migration, we have been building this boat as we sailed it. That said, we are grateful for your patience, as it has not always been smooth sailing. So thank you for helping us create your new user accounts, add permissions to your accounts, and build data collection forms along the way as we continue to make other enhancements. And we look forward to building and adding more features along the way, including ways to view data that has been reported to RSA and the ability to query certain data sets. So stay tuned for more announcements as we continue to build out this valuable resource. So far, as we show on the next slide, we have completed 4 data collections in our RSA MIS, including the Program Year 19 WIOA Annual Report and the final submission of the RSA 911 data under the previous policy directive. We also collected the RSA 692, information about reallotment under the VR program, and the RSA 722. So thank you for your partnership in helping us get through 4 data collections so far. On the next slide, we'll show that we're currently in the middle of 8 different data collections, including the first submission of the RSA 911 under the new policy directive for program year 2020. Several of these data collections listed on this slide are annual performance reports and represent perhaps only the only performance-based data collection at the federal level for some of these programs. This includes the Client Assistance Program, PAIR program, the Independent Living for Older Individuals Who Are Blind program, AIVRS, and the Business Enterprise program under the Randolph-Shepard Act. Most of these data collections run through the end of December or trickle over into January of 2021. On the next slide, we've indicated what's around the corner after those previous 8 collections end. So beginning January 1st, we'll begin collecting for the first time data from VR agencies on the new RSA 17, and we'll embark upon the 3rd collection of RSA 911 data for program year 20 Q2. So much to look forward to in terms of data collections and wrapping up these existing collections over the next couple of weeks. On the next slide, I've highlighted some information related to one of the data collections I just mentioned, the WIOA Annual Report, the ETA 9169. This slide shows the progression of data availability as we've moved through the past 3 program years. So as you know, we began collecting WIOA data from VR programs in program year 17 when we were able to calculate performance results for only one WIOA performance indicator, the measurable skill gains rate. We were able to calculate that again in the program year 18 annual reports, along with, for the first time, information about the employment status of individuals with disabilities who had exited the program in program year 17. We calculated the employment rate in the 2nd quarter after exit and the median earnings of those participants in the 2nd quarter after exit in program year 2018. For the first time in program year 19 and moving forward into program year 20 and beyond, we will have enough data to calculate performance across all 5 of the WIOA performance indicators for the first time. So in addition to those 3 that we did last year in program year 18, in program year 19, we'll be adding performance results for the employment rate in the 4th quarter after exit, along with performance results for the credential attainment rate for the first time. At the bottom of this slide, you see the effectiveness in serving employers indicator, which is the 6th WIOA common performance measure. We have been, along with our colleagues in the adult education program and our partners at the Department of Labor, we have been piloting this indicator since program year 16. It remained in pilot in 17, 18, and 19, and it will continue to be piloted in program year 20 before the federal partners define the measure formally through the rulemaking process. During the pilot, The Department of Labor and Education are still collecting performance results across this indicator, and we encourage you to continue to be in contact with your partners at the state level to provide the data for whatever measures you've decided to pilot. So on the next slide, we lay out information about what we did last spring related to establishing, for the first time, performance goals with VR programs at the statewide level for program years 20 and 21 on the measurable skill gains rate only. So in doing so, we used baseline data from program year 17 and 18, along with a statistical adjustment model for the first time to develop these goals. And on this slide, you'll see we've provided some information about the averages for the expected levels of performance that VR programs submitted to RSA in their state plans, along with the average of the negotiated levels of performance that RSA set with our partners at the state level. You'll see that on average, in program year 20, VR agencies proposed performance at 23.7%, and we set on average negotiated level at 25.1. Similarly, in program year 21, we set negotiated levels of performance about 2 points higher. We've provided some information on this slide about the range of expected levels and negotiated levels for both program years. Looking at program year 20, we have a range of the negotiated levels from 14% to 50%. And then in the second year, we have a range of negotiated levels at 15% to 56%. After program year 20 concludes, we will provide the statistical adjustment model results based on the actual characteristics of the people served by the VR program and the actual economic conditions in the state. So we'll use those two sets of model results, those that were provided before program year 20 and after program year 20, to derive the adjustment factor for each state VR program to use in the performance calculations. If a state VR program's actual level of performance in program year 20 or 21 falls below 50% of the adjusted level of performance, RSA is required by the law to provide technical assistance and develop a performance improvement plan with that state VR program. In program years 22 and 23, we plan to negotiate measurable skill gains rate performance goals again for the second time, as well as the other 4 WIOA performance indicators for the first time. So for 22 and 23, we will have negotiated levels of performance for all 5 indicators. On the next slide, we're begin to provide some preliminary results of the VR program data that we just received for program year 2019. As you know, we have 3 years of WIOA performance data, and this slide reflects the number of applicants, the number of eligible individuals, and the number of eligible individuals receiving services under an IPE. In other words, the third line here are VR program participants. The 3 years of WIOA data reflect a contraction in the number of applicants and eligible individuals, leading to VR agencies providing VR services to fewer participants in program year 19 compared to 18 and 17. Important to note here is that participants in the third line do not include students with disabilities who may be receiving pre-employment transition services before they applied as applicants to the VR program or as eligible individuals. And we'll talk more about the trends for that as well. So, and keep in mind that in total, the VR program nationally is engaged with well over 1 million individuals with disabilities at various stages of the VR process. On the next slide, we've provided some preliminary information for program year 19 related to the outcomes of participants who have exited the VR program with competitive integrated employment across the past 3 years. As you know, the employment rate is no longer an indicator under WIOA, and it represents a purely quantitatively based measure. However, as you can see from this slide, from 17 to 19, fewer individuals with disabilities are exiting with employment outcomes, and fewer individuals with disabilities are exiting without employment outcomes, which tends to reflect the fact that we're serving fewer participants. And in the third line here, you'll see that the performance rate from 17, about 49%, has dipped slightly to about 46% in program year 2019. On the next slide, we've provided some information about the actual outcomes that individuals with disabilities who exited with employment have received. And you'll see in the first line here a positive trend in the amount of money in terms of hourly wages that VR program participants are earning. We're from program year 2017 at $10.50 an hour median to now $12 median hourly earnings in program year 19. And in the second line here, you'll see that the median hours worked per week has remained constant at about 30 hours a week across the board. The next slide is a snapshot of the program year 19 WIOA annual report, as well as the previous 2 years. You'll see here a lot of data, and we're not going to go through all of it, but I did want to highlight a couple of things. In program year 19, you'll see the number of participants who received career services was just under 700,000 individuals, which represents about 80% of the total participants served. So in other words, 80% of the people served through the VR program are receiving some type of career service, whereas only 30% of the VR program participants served in program year 19 received a training service. You'll see that there on the 5th line, and that's that 200 and just about 65,000 participants received a training service. So we're looking at about 80% receiving career services and 30% receiving training services in program year 19, which is fairly on par with what we saw in 17 and 18. From program year 17 to 19, VR agencies are spending about 13% less money on career services. You see that $1.1 billion figure there for program year 17, down to just over $1 billion in program year 19, 13% less. More dramatic or more prevalent is the amount of money being spent on training services over the 3-year period, which is down about 40% from where we were in program year 17 at just under $700 million. We're now just under $500 million spent on training services in program year 19. You'll see the total participants exiting from the VR program has decreased slightly, which is in line with what we talked about on the previous slide. We're looking at about just about 281,000 individuals with disabilities exiting the VR program after receiving services in program year 19. The final line on this slide reflects the co-enrollment percentage. These are VR program participants who are co-enrolled in at least one of the other 5 WIOA core programs. This performance data, of course, will be published in the national program year 19 WIOA annual report in the next several weeks. On the next slide, we've broken down more WIOA annual report performance information. These are the barriers to employment as reflected over the past 3 program years. As you know, the barriers to employment play an important role in the development of the statistical adjustment model. Therefore, collection and accurate reporting of this data is important because it lends to the predictive value and the actual values that the statistical adjustment model provides, which, as we talked about, informs the adjustment factor. A couple things to note on this slide related to the barriers. In program year 19, you'll see that 31% of the participants served in the VR program were English language learners. They had either low levels of literacy or other cultural barriers. 40% of the participants served in program year 19 were considered long-term unemployed, whereas just about 50% were qualified as low-income individuals in program year 19. You'll see there that our individuals with disabilities in program year 19 reflects 100% of the people we're serving, which makes sense. On the next slide, we've provided performance results across the WIOA indicators as they have been available. So we have results here for the measurable skill gains rate, the employment rate in the second quarter, the median earnings in the second quarter after exit, the employment rate in the fourth quarter after exit, and the credential attainment rate. So if we start with the first couple of lines, you'll see that there's a positive trend in terms of the measurable skill gains rate, both in terms of the percentage growing since program year 17, and a positive trend in the number of participants earning one of the 5 types of measurable skill gains. You'll see in program year 19, we're up 33% from where we were in program year 18, which was up 24% from where we were in program year 17. So this is a positive trend, and it's good to see. It also can be informative to assess the number and percentage of participants who are even eligible to earn a measurable skill gain each program year or quarter. This is actually some data we've been providing in the data dashboards each quarter to VR agencies. So if we're thinking about the percent eligible to receive or earn a measurable skills gain, to look at that metric, the numerator is the measurable skill gains rate denominator. And the denominator, in turn, is the total number of participants. So in program year 19, nationally, about 30% of VR program participants were enrolled in some type of education or training program that could have led to a recognized post-secondary credential or employment. So by doing that, we're taking about the 258,000 measurable skills gain rate denominator and dividing that by the total number of participants we served in program year 19, leading us to that 30% rate. In program year 18, it was 26%. And in program year 17, it was just about 22%. So just like the measurable skill gains rate, the actual WIOA indicator, the percentage of people in the program who are eligible to even earn a measurable skill gains is also growing from 22% in program year 17 to, like I said, 30% of participants in program year 19. So that's a positive 8-point increase over the 3-year period. And as the VR program supports more participants on career pathways, leading to career advancement, we expect this metric and the measurable skill gains rate to continue to grow and improve over time. You'll see here on the second and fourth lines, the employment rate in the second quarter after exit grew a little bit from program year 18 to 19, whereas the number of participants employed in the second quarter after exit decreased slightly by about 3,000 participants over that 2-year period. Median earnings stayed relatively stable at just under $4,000 for those individuals' earnings in the second quarter after they exited the program. We're also showing for the first time the employment rate in the fourth quarter after exit, which was just about 44% in program year 19. These are individuals who exited the VR program in calendar year 2018. So this accounts for 4 quarters after they had exited and the 2-quarter lag in obtaining unemployment insurance data matching. You'll see that fewer participants with disabilities were employed in the fourth quarter after exit than they were in the second quarter after exit by looking at that raw number. Now that we have the fourth quarter after exit data for program year 2019, again, those are people who exited the program in calendar year 2018, we can assess whether these individuals exited with employment and whether or not they were employed in both the second quarter and the fourth quarter after they left the program. So for this cohort, those people who exited in calendar year 2018, of the percent of the participants who left the VR program with employment, that was in line with their IPE goal and satisfied other closure requirements, 63% of them sustained some form of employment in the second and fourth quarters after exit. So we're tying these WIOA indicators there to a principle in the VR program that remains very true, employment status at exit. And we'll continue to provide that information to VR programs and states broken out based on their individual performance as well. You'll see here in the final row, the credential attainment rate for program year 19 at just about 11%. We need to provide a lot more technical assistance related to collecting and reporting the credential attainment rate. And over the next few weeks, you'll be seeing more of that coming from RSA. And we look forward to partnering with our technical assistance providers to continue to encourage continuous improvement on this rate. Again, it was the first time we collected it. It's a very complex measure, and we're looking forward to seeing that indicator grow, just like the measurable skill gains rate has grown over the past 3 years. On the next slide, we have the breakout of the types of measurable skill gains, the 5 different types. And you'll see that in each of the 3 years that we've collected this data, most of our gains are being made towards earning the secondary school diploma. That's the second line there, whether that's a high school diploma or its equivalent. That reflects the second most gains. The most gains that we saw in program year 19 were those gains substantiating progress made towards a secondary or post-secondary transcripts. So students who were pursuing their high school diploma or equivalency, or those students who were in some type of post-secondary education program. Like the number of participants earning gains, as we talked about on the previous slide, the number of gains earned is also showing positive growth, and that's reflected in the final line of this slide. Note that a participant may earn more than one gain during the program year, and if they do, this is counted only once for the measurable skills gain rate, but we reflect each particular gain here. And you'll see in program year 19, we're up 34% than where we were in program year 18, when we were up 29% from where we were in program year 17. So positive trends here as well. On the next slide, we've provided a lot of data related to students with disabilities and the provision or receipt of pre-employment transition services. So you'll see here in the first line, the number of students with disabilities reported from program year 17 to 19. VR agencies are reporting 23% more students with disabilities as taking part in some phase of the VR process. As you know, a student with a disability does not have to receive pre-employment transition services, but to receive pre-employment transition services, the student must meet the definition of a student with a disability. Over these 3 years, from 17 to 19, 18% more students cumulatively are receiving these types of pre-employment transition services. So you'll see we're just under 250,000 students receiving the services in program year 19, compared with about 180,000 students who received those services in program year 17. Each year, the VR program has been in the mid upper 30s in terms of the number of students with disabilities who receive pre-employment transition service. You'll see that in program year 19, we're about 36% of the students with disabilities who were reported as being a student received a pre-employment transition service. From program year 17 to 19, you'll see here that 60% more potentially eligible students with disabilities are receiving pre-employment transition services. These students may very well go on to apply to the VR program and become participants, but we're seeing substantial growth in the number of students who have not applied who are receiving pre-employment transition services over the past 3 years. And in the final line here, we're looking at the total number of pre-employment transition services, those 5 required activities provided. And you'll see significant growth in the total number of these services provided over the 3-year period. From 17 to 19, the number of these services has increased 45%. We had a big jump from 17 to 18 and a slightly smaller jump from 18 to 19, but overall up 45% over the 3-year period. So that's a quick snapshot of some of the data that we wanted to share. As I mentioned, more will become available as we publish the national level WIOA annual report and those state level reports in the next several weeks. On the next slide here, we've listed several resources for VR agencies related to the Performance Accountability System and the RSA 911. The first link here will take you to the annual reports for 17 and 18. We'll add the 19 reports there soon. We have a couple of tools here that RSA developed with the WinTAC over the past couple of years. An effectiveness in serving employers indicator crosswalk, specifically targeted for VR programs. 2 guides on collecting and reporting measurable skill gain rates and credential attainment rate, and considerations for policy planning around those 2 indicators. We have a link here for the statistical adjustment model that we used before program year 20 and we'll use again after program year 20. A link here for the new RSA 911 training series that we rolled out over the past several months leading to implementation of the new 911 this program year. Checklist we developed with the WinTAC to help VR agencies plan for that transition. A TA document here related to reporting measurable skill gains data in program year 20, especially in that first quarter, due to a new data element in the RSA 911. And finally, a link to the rehab data work group. And you'll be hearing more about that work group and its activities if you participate in the upcoming CSAVR and CSAB conferences in the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested in receiving RSA emails, which include announcements about all of these tools listed here and other news, you can sign up for our emails through Gov Delivery on our website. And as I mentioned, you can feel free to reach out to the data unit, staff person assigned to your team, or me, and we'll get you set up to receive these resources and different announcements over the next several weeks. So on behalf of Mark and all of my RSA colleagues, we once again thank the conference organizers for including us, and we thank you, the audience, for your commitment to using performance data to improve the programs we are collectively carrying out. keep in touch and be well. Thank you.
Thank you to both Mark and Chris for providing their knowledge, expertise, and sharing such valuable information and perspective with us today. We truly appreciate it. There's a tremendous team behind the scenes here at Piqua working diligently and creatively to ensure that you have a wonderful online experience with us this week. We encourage you to explore the conference website, develop your participant profile, view the navigation tutorials, and actively network with others. We have record-breaking registration this year with well over 900 participants registered as of this morning. As of a few minutes ago, we had 921 individuals registered. And as Kyle had noted earlier, I would not be surprised at all if that number continues to increase throughout the day as more people are learning about this wonderful opportunity. Our goal collectively as a team here is to make sure that you, our participants, our colleagues, our friends, have a great experience with us this year in the conference. In the spirit of providing high quality content in a practical format that fits with your busy schedules, the majority of conference sessions have been pre-recorded and are available for viewing at your convenience through our conference website. Pre-approved CRC and CEU credits are available for the sessions, and you can manage and download your credits directly through the conference website. However, don't forget to complete your evaluation forms for each session. As those of us that love data and love evaluation know, it takes a team effort to get the evaluation completed. Additionally, completing the evaluation for each session will help trigger your continuing ed credits and CRC credits for each session. Also, please check out the interactive map feature on the conference homepage. This is a fun opportunity for you to connect with others and see and learn about who all is participating, both in your state as well as around the country. We have participants joining us from all 50 states, plus Guam, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands. Wow. Thank you, technology, for providing this wonderful interactive networking opportunity for us all. Additionally, one of the very special features of the Summit Conference, again, is the opportunity for us to connect and network with others. In addition to the pre-recorded sessions, we have also included live discussion and networking sessions each day over the next several days. You are very welcome to join us and encouraged to join us if available. However, here's the caveat. In order to keep things manageable, the live discussions are limited to the first 100 participants who join in the links. Each live session will have facilitators involved to help kick off the session and pose questions. As participants, you will have the opportunity for conversation with colleagues in smaller groups, and facilitators may or may not be present in those smaller groups. However, again, we are providing you with all the tools that you need to engage in rich, meaningful conversation and share valuable information with each other. Our goal, again, is to provide you with the opportunities to connect, share, and learn with and from each other. With this, we thank you for your interest and participation and warmly welcome you to this conference. We hope you enjoy yourselves, have some fun, share and connect with others, and importantly, gain information that will be useful to you in your professional work as we work collectively to improve our system processes and importantly, probably most importantly, improve employment and economic outcomes for the individuals we serve through the public VR program. With that, I thank you so much again for joining us. Thank you for providing us with your time and joining us today. And at this point, we will be closing this session a few minutes early. Everyone has a few minutes to prepare for your next round of meetings today. And again, please continue to connect in through the website, take advantage of all the opportunities we have in the conference website. And we are thrilled to be working with you this week in supporting this event. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you online soon. Thank you.